If the usual reminder that you get, please silence your cell phones if you don't mind. Put them on silent or stunned. And all meeting materials today are available on the committee webpage. So if you'd like to follow along, please look there. Madam Clerk, if you will, please call the roll.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Berg. Senator Carpenter. Senator Douglas.
Present.
Senator Elkins.
Present.
Senator Smith. Senator Storm. Here. Senator Wheeler. Senator Williams. Here. Senator Wilson.
Here.
Representative Bivens. Here. Representative Branscombe.
Here.
Representative Bridges. Representative Donworth.
Present.
Representative Dossett. Representative Elliott. Representative Hale. Present. Representative Heverin. Present. Representative Hodgson. Here. Representative Huff.
Here.
Representative Imes. Representative Lehman.
Here.
Representative Lewis.
Here.
Representative McCool.
Here.
Representative Neighbors.
Here.
Representative Rourke.
Here.
Representative Smith. Here. Representative Tackett Lafferty. Representative Thomas.
Present.
Representative Upchurch.
Here.
Co-Chair Blanton. Chairman Higdon.
Here. We do have a quorum. And with that said, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Motion.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All right. Getting down to business, our first presenters today, we'll talk about the road fund. Mike Hancock, Deputy Secretary, Sean McKierman, Executive Director, Office of Budget and Fiscal Management, and Ron Rigney, the master of all things in transportation. So if y'all please come forward, introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's our pleasure to be here today, and on behalf of the Transportation Cabinet. And first thing I want to do is just extend the regrets of Secretary Gray. You know, he loves being here. He loves being with this committee. So he is out and about the state today, and I am pinch hitting. So I am Mike Hancock, Deputy Secretary of Transportation here in Kentucky, and I'm
Mike,
here today.
if you will, please make sure the green light's glowing bright there, and pull that a little closer to you.
Pull it closer to me. There we go.
There you go. Much better.
The light was on, but it was not close enough. So there we go. But I am Mike Hancock, Deputy Secretary of Transportation here in Kentucky, and with me today I have Sean McKiernan, who is the Cabinet's Budget Director, and Ron Rigney, who's the Director of our Program Management function with the Cabinet, and a person I'm sure most of you know. So my role today basically is to do those introductions and then be here with Ron to help Sean if there are any questions that may come up about the road fund report. So with that, I'm just going to turn the program over to Sean, and he's going to walk you through the slides that he's prepared for you today. So, Sean.
My name's Sean McKiernan, for the record. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Executive Director of the Office of Budget and Fiscal Management, as Mike introduced me, and I'm here today to give a brief update on the road fund for fiscal year 24-25, which ended on June 30th. On this slide, we're looking at actual revenues compared to the enacted budgeted revenue estimates. You can see that the motor fuels revenue came in 3.5% below estimate, while motor vehicle usage performed almost 11% stronger than predicted. Other receipts were altogether just $400,000 short of the $308 million estimate. The bottom line is that road fund revenue was $38.5 million greater than the enacted estimate, and that's a 2.1% increase over the enacted estimate. When comparing FY25 road fund revenue with FY24's, you can see a decrease of about $11 million, and that's a drop of 0.6%. As you may remember, there was a drop in the motor fuels tax rate that went into effect at the beginning of FY25, which largely accounts for the change in motor fuels tax receipts. Motor vehicle usage tax increased 7.2% over fiscal year 24. And just as a reminder, last fiscal year, the motor fuels tax was 26.4 cents per gallon, and the year before that, it was 28.7. So that's a 2.3 cent difference. And then for the coming fiscal year, FY26, we're at 25 cents a gallon, so 1.4 cents less. I'm happy to report that there is a road fund surplus for FY25. The revenue excess is the biggest component of that surplus. We also had a reduction of planned spending in revenue sharing, and that's because the motor fuel tax revenue receipts were lower than forecast. And that added $12.8 million to the surplus, as you can see on this slide. Net spending coming in below budget added $8.3 million to the surplus, and then there were some closed capital projects that also added $2 million. The total for the road fund surplus account is $61.6 million. And as a reminder, the 24-26 budget bill requires that money in the road fund surplus account be appropriated to state construction. So this slide is just an excerpt from the budget bill that shows the direction to take that surplus and appropriate it to the highway construction program. And that is the extent of my presentation. Do we have any questions?
When you said brief, you were serious.
Yes, sir.
One thing I guess I want to point out, the motor fuels was down 7%. That drops down to the formula FIS, part of that does. So that was a big hit to our cities and counties and rural and secondary roads, which we're going to talk about here in just a few minutes. Am I correct in saying that?
That's correct. Yes.
Can you tell me a dollar amount that when I guess roughly 50% of the motor fuels goes to the formula FIS?
Correct.
Half of it goes to the cabinet or to the road fund. So can you tell me approximately a dollar amount?
So that's $12.8 million that we had planned for revenue sharing to distribute to the formula FIS that didn't go out because the receipts were less than predicted. So that's the amount, that $12.8 million on this slide here.
And to give you some indication and maybe verify this, vehicle usage was up 7%. None of that goes to the formula FIS. It goes right to the road fund, correct?
That's correct.
So, and the money that, this is very elementary, but you didn't go into it, so I'm going to dig it out of you. The formula that we're using now, that's what gave us a -7.
Correct.
And I guess actually it's dropped about 4 cents if you go back to the June the 30th of last year to July the 1st this year is about a 4% reduction, 4.1 cent reduction.
Yes, sir.
125 million, and that half of that did not make it to the formula FIS. The city and counties suffered there too, right?
That's correct.
And I think we're going. Commissioner Lewis is going to fill us in on that here shortly. So, but the reason, like I said, the formula did not help us at all there. I think we're collecting the same on our formulas, generating the same amount of cents per gallon, the 26 cents, as we did in 2011.
That's correct.
Y'all get tired of hearing me say that, but I just want to emphasize why we're not blacktopping and repairing all the rural and secondary roads that that we should. And the reason motor vehicle usage is up is that inflation has taken care of that. That's sales tax off of when you buy a new or used vehicle. That 6% sales tax goes to the road fund. That has grown over the years, where our formula is not growing our revenue for rural and secondary in cities and counties. You're shaking your head yes, Mike. Will you explain that?
Well, I think you did a nice job of explaining how that program works, and you're absolutely right. I mean, when the gas tax declines, then the amount of money that's available for both the road plan and revenue sharing declines accordingly. And so it is a situation over time where we are not able to provide the same level of funding for those parts of our budget as we would have previously. So.
Okay. Thank you. We have questions. Representative Lehman has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question along that. As you were discussing, there's the reduction. There has been reductions in the motor fuels tax. Is there, in addition to that, is fuel efficiency, the rise in electric vehicles, obviously not using as much gas? Is that also a factor, or is that a relatively minor factor? Do you have any division about that?
It certainly is a factor that cars being more fuel efficient reduces the amount of reliance on gasoline, which reduces the tax receipts that we receive. I don't have any numbers about how many dollars that translates to. I do know that we had a hybrid, I think for a year perhaps, we had a hybrid fee that was being collected. I believe it was $60 per vehicle per year. And my notes, this is before I was in this position, indicate that this past fiscal year that could have been $4 million in collections, but that fee was removed.
If I could also just add just a little bit, while we see that particular aspect of revenue collections, there's also this issue of CAFE standards, big picture, long term. As cars become more and more fuel efficient over time, or as they're projected to be so, then they have to fill up with gas less often, which means a direct impact at the pump. So that's also impacts our ability to fund our programs.
Yeah, miles driven is way up, not way up. Miles driven continues to increase every year, but usage stays the same because of fuel, additional fuel efficiency. So we're probably using the same number of gallons today as we did in that 2011. We're producing about the same amount of revenue today as we did in 2011. And on the electric vehicle, the user fee on that, we have a user fee on electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids.
Correct.
Regular hybrid vehicles, we did exclude regular hybrids. Question about tolls collected at the Louisville bridges, and can you give us an update on how those collections went this past year, and if that's up or down, and how our payments on our bonds are? I know that payment was due, I think, here pretty quick. Could you give us some kind of, you off the top of your head know anything about that?
I know that we paid the bill that was due. We are in the midst of processing that payment. I don't have the numbers in front of me about the tolling, but I can get those to you.
Yeah, there's always next month. We'll get that next month, and we really we're going to invite. I know Chairman Douglas is going to invite them to our transportation, the budget review subcommittee on transportation. We've invited them several years. They've yet to make it in, so hopefully we can get them in this year and ask them some questions, because we do. I think many of us get calls about those guys, and we'd like to see face to face with them. If you could help us arrange that, I know Chairman Douglas is working on that. I don't. Go ahead,
Mr. Chairman, if I could, with regard to tolling for the Louisville bridges, the good news is that the revenues that are generated are covering all of the bills and all the commitments, and so that's an important thing. One of the things that we've been really focused on in trying to get our toll services provider to do more efficiently is take care of our customers. And we hear a lot of the same complaints, and we're very determined to respond effectively in that regard. So we're working hard every day to improve that situation.
Well, and that's important. I guess the most important part is we had enough money to cover our payment.
Sir.
But the second thing would be customer service, and I guess the third most important thing, are they collecting all the money they should be collecting, or how efficient are they in collecting of the proper, let's call it a user fee. Tolls are a bad word in Kentucky, and so we'll call it that. Seeing no further questions. Okay. Representative Everett.
Thank you. I just ate a jelly bean. I apologize. Thank you.
Did you bring enough for the rest of us?
I did. I've got plenty to pass around,
Okay.
Chairman.
All right. We'll just pass them around.
Please wash your hands. Thank you. Jelly beans. This is no surprise to anybody. I've had these for 6 years. Thank you. I really appreciate it, Deputy Secretary Hancock. This is always very helpful, I think, for you all letting us know what the updates that you provide. One question I would have is, it just seems like a lot of the projects are being they're being slow rolled. The money's there. We put more money in the we took money from the general fund to put towards the transportation plan, or the transportation fund. Why are projects being so slow to be rolled out? That's just been a complaint. We've got, I know we talk about the Litchfield bypass a lot, and that's finally made some headway, but it took a long time. And so could you give us any update of why it's taken so long for projects to, even though the money's there, they're in the transportation plan and have been probably for several cycles, what's the deal on that?
Well, Representative Haver, we're working very hard to deliver every project we possibly can, and it's one of the things that we've done, and this has been purposeful, but the general funds that have come through the high growth counties category, we have really focused on making sure we get those projects out, and we've got a lot of work behind the scenes that's going on to deliver those projects in full this biennium, as much of that as we can, certainly. And then the other projects, we have a tremendous load of projects in the highway plan. We've had conversations about funding and about how much funding there is and how we can stretch those across as many projects as we can. So we're doing our best to deliver as much as we can, as quickly as we can. In terms of the actual delivery, we're working hard. I know our district folks and our consultants, our engineers that are helping us prepare plans and buy right away and relocate utilities and do all the things that are necessary to actually build and construct a highway project. There's so much work that's going on, and that's not always readily obvious. It's like the duck paddling on top of the water. You don't see the feet churning underneath. And we've got a lot of that going on, and I'm very proud. I know the Secretary has spoken many times about his pride for the folks that are actually out there every day helping us deliver the program. So we're doing our best. It's far from perfect, but project delivery is an inexact science, but we work hard at it.
Quickly comment with follow-up.
Please.
Thank you. And I can't brag enough on District 4. Bradley Bottoms does a fantastic job, and Kevin Blaine and all of them are very responsive. I kind of felt like maybe it was more of an issue at the state level, or at the maybe at the the state office than it was a district level. But I appreciate the response on that. And I do want to take a second. I see Commissioner Bobby Joe back there. And I know we were able, we're trying to figure out the sidewalk that has been funded in Clarkson since 2019, I think. And so we're just now getting it. And so I really appreciate her communication with me on that and getting that done. So thank you.
Thank you. Senator Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I thank you all and your people for how hard they're working. My question is simply, because this is what I'm getting in my district, is the delays caused by acquiring the land. Could you give us an idea of sort of what percentage of the slowdown issue that might be? Because I know in my district that's a significant issue.
Thank you, Senator Doug. Anytime we have a right-of-way purchase, it's always a difficult process because we have obviously we're anxious to acquire the property to help move the project along, but the person that's being affected has rights as well, and they quite often exercise those, and as they do, and as we work together to try to resolve those issues, sometimes that just takes longer than we would like. But at the end of the day, we're abiding by all the rules governing right-of-way acquisition, and they are many. In many cases, we have courts involved and other areas to help settle out some of these things. So it feels sometimes like a slog, but it's an important effort and something that we have to do appropriately and wisely. So, from a standpoint of overall program development, at any given time for all the projects that are scheduled for construction, there's an accompanying layer of right-of-way acquisition that has to happen. And sometimes when you hear about projects moving quickly, it's because the right-of-way phase moved quickly, or the utility relocation phase, which is another aspect of our process that can be slow.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Donworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of a follow-up on Representative Hevron's question about the delays in transportation. Secretary Gray presented a few months ago about the disaster recovery. Are those separate groups that are responding to natural disasters that are impacting our transportation, our highways? Does that have an impact? And if so, how do we work around that?
For the most part, they're separate groups. Occasionally you'll have a design firm that's helping us look at bridges that have been affected by disasters, or you'll have some overlap here and there. But by and large, you're looking at our maintenance function, which is working to help resolve any funding issues we may have there, or development or delivery issues with disaster relief. And then on the other side, we have a whole staff of folks who help us deliver projects. So they're largely two separate things with the occasional overlap where they help each other out.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Back several years ago, when I first started doing the road plan, there was this Secretary Hancock guy I used to deal with. But the goal then was $1 billion a year out the door in contracts. Do you know yet the year 25 has ended? Can you tell us how much went out the door? What contract? What the dollar amount was for that year?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, we typically will look at the award of projects, the total award for the year, on a calendar year basis. And so typically January through December, we'll award the last couple of years. It's been over $1 billion. It's been $1.2 billion, $1.3 billion in that range. I'm pleased to say that we're just through the July letting this year. So we're a little over halfway through the calendar year, and we're already just shy. I think we have $998 million awarded so far this year. If you include some of our progressive design build work that also is producing projects out there. So we're in for a great year, and it looks like we're going to exceed last year's total. I'm always reluctant to to set some kind of bar out there, but we're on a great course.
Well, you know, you were part of that bar that was set back years ago with the $1 billion. And I'd like to see us 1.5, really 1.75 would be a good point. And a lot of the members, we have a lot of new members. Could you explain the cash management system? And we track that every month. We're happy to see that that's back first several months of the year, probably had over $500 million in the bank, and it's down some considerably now. But would you explain cash management, please?
Wow, that's a tough one. I was asked to do that a few years ago, and somebody gave me 5 minutes to do it, and I just said, last time I only got 3 minutes. So, it's a tough one, and I have to go all the way back to the year 2000 to really describe why we do what we do, and I'll do this briefly. But back prior to the year 2000, we set money up for projects all at once. In other words, if we had a construction phase that cost $1 million, we set aside $1 million, and that $1 million just sat in the bank until it was spent. And over time, we built up quite a nice bank account, just waiting for projects to spin down. The 2000 General Assembly decided that that was not an appropriate way to do business, and they wanted us to better manage our cash. And so they put us in a mode of looking at setting aside or authorizing those funds, but then projecting out over time how those funds would spend down and organizing our authorization of projects and our cash balance accordingly, so that we could constantly be projecting ahead and making sure that we didn't run out of funding at some point. Back in the late, I don't know, it was 2009 or so, or no, it may have been, I think it was even 2004, I'm trying to remember, but we had an addendum to that said our cash balance could not fall below $100 million at any point in time, or we would have to bring or utilize our cash management plan. And so we have a cash management plan for what to do if the cash balance goes below $100 million. And so all of those things have factored over the years. We've watched cash balances rise and fall. It's very typical for our cash balance to grow in the winter months when contractors are not out working as delivering, those bigger projects, and then watch the cash balance fall in the summer months when the contractors are working and the bills are coming in. And we also have some big bond payments and those kinds of things that we make in August, September, that time frame. So cash balance ebbs and flows. We've been tracking this ever since 2000. We've got a graph that shows how that's ebbed and flowed. And there were some balances built up that are being worked down as we speak. And I think today's balance was 166 million. So we're down in a range where we're not nervous, but we're watching it closely. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Well, that we know you're getting projects out the door when your balance drops down.
Yes,
Representative Hoxton.
Yeah, following on some of these questions, last time was my first road budget, and I came to the unhappy discovery of something called oversubscription, where we actually subscribe more road projects than we can possibly get done. And my understanding is the ratio used to be something like 5 or 6 to 1, and now it's 3 to 1. Can you explain that concept and how that impacts?
Sure. This is not something that is a recent phenomenon. This has gone on for several years, but it's a concept where, as a highway plan comes together, quite often it's difficult to package everything that everyone wants, both we and legislators and others, to package that in a fiscally balanced highway plan. And so for years we've been producing the highway plan and pointing out as we've produced it that rather than dropping projects out of the plan, we are continuing to produce the plan, trying to effectively balance the federal funds as much as we possibly can. In fact, Ron can tell you the statewide transportation improvement program that's required by the Federal Highway Administration says that we must balance the federal program. So we have that part of the highway plan that generally is balanced. On the state side of the ledger, We have state highway funds that are, I think in this biennium, we're over-programmed quite a bit. I don't remember the number, Ron. I don't know if you...
16. We get about 10 million. Had about 10 million. We're 23 million.
20 billion. Yeah, from the state perspective, the numbers, what Ron is talking about, the highway plan when we produced it has about $9.8 billion worth of money, real money in it, federal and state funds. We had a total at the end of the enacted plan process of, I think it was right at $22 billion of projects in that plan. So it doesn't take long to realize that we've got more projects in the plan than we have dollars to deliver them. And so the question is, how do we effectively go about and deliver as much as we can out of that program? And that's, we sat down the day after the enacted plan was solid and began to work through that process, and we've been trying to stretch dollars every day since, and doing the best we can with it.
Okay. The you mentioned the word bonds earlier, and we have several types of bonds. Can you give us a status? Is that amount reducing? I guess we're getting those paid off. How do we stand bond wise?
I'm not really prepared to talk about the bonds today. I'm sorry, but we have several. We have the Garvey bonds, the federally, the bonds that are paid with the anticipated federal receipts. We have economic development bonds, and I know we have some funds that are available to us, but only for certain counties. And so we are having some discussions about whether those agreements can be altered so that we can spend those bonds for other kinds of projects. So those discussions are ongoing. I know we have bonds that are being sold for our driver's license system, and that's a very important project, and it's underway, and it's long in the making, but it's currently on schedule. So that's a very positive thing.
You mentioned driver's license, so we don't. Will you explain the system that you're working on?
Well, it's the Kindle system. It's the new driver's license system. So that's the N in Kindle. The current system is the Kittle system, I believe, and it's supposed to be much more efficient, and will help with the issuing of real IDs, I'm sure, and should be a big improvement over the outdated system. This will be state-of-the-art, cloud-based. I'm sure.
Sean's background is in helping finance that. Heather Stout, as you know, Mr. Chairman, is our guru on all things DVR. But
I know you're working on it.
Yes,
I'm glad that you brought that out. Ron, we haven't heard from you. You want what's the status report on you?
We're, as Mike said, we're doing a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes trying to deliver projects. The question on the right-of-way, there's just so much goes into acquiring right-of-way. And Mike did a great job of pointing out that we have to meet the federal regulations, and whether it's a federally funded project or a state-funded project. So there's a lot of work down in the details of getting that right-of-way cleared in accordance with the regulations. The utility relocations, our utility people are working hard. With utility companies try to schedule. But again, they're just the utility people's staff, getting out there to relocate utilities. But it's not out of lack of effort on what we're trying to get accomplished. And as Mike pointed out, we've let almost $1 billion worth of construction projects since January the 1st. So it's a lot of projects on the street.
Representative Roach.
Thank you, Chair. I'm over You mentioned federal funding, and when it comes to the road plan specifically, are we anticipating any impacts with the amounts that we're going to be getting for the next road plan ahead?
I'm sorry, with the, I didn't hear.
For the federal funds that we're anticipating to get, are we anticipating any changes?
We, at this point, as we work with USDOT and Federal Highway Administration, we're not hearing that there are going to be substantive changes in our formula federal aid funding. I mean, there are a couple of categories that are, we may not see continued, but there are other things that are very near and dear to us. Our regular federal formula funding is critical to the states, especially here in Kentucky. We use those funds to build a lot of projects in our state. One of the things that I do want to mention, because I know it's something near and dear, and I actually thought Ron might bring it up, but it's something near and dear to him, and it's to all of us, and that is in the IIJA, the act that was passed a couple or 3 or 4 years ago, as it related to bridges. And when we talk about bridge replacements in Kentucky, of course, we have over 14,000 state and local bridges in our state. There is a component of the IIJA that was federal general fund money that was about 120 million a year, something to that level, and it's incredibly crucial to us. And we're hopeful that there aren't any changes made to that category, especially. A little concerned about it because it's general fund. It's outside the typical FHWA umbrella, but that's. At this point, we're not hearing that any of those programs are going to be done away with. In fact, what we're hearing is, I think, good in that we've heard a lot of good things about building more and more projects and getting back in that business of delivering projects as quickly as we can. So we're excited about that.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a brief follow-up?
You may.
Thank you. So are there any specific categories that you think are being, maybe that won't be reallocated?
We, the funding, I'm trying to think of categories, Ron.
Some of the NEVI funds.
Yeah, I mean, the NEVI's where my head went, the vehicle electrification and all of that, electric vehicles. A lot of those fund sources are looking like they will dry up over time, if not fairly soon, but most everything else, I'm trying to think, carbon reduction, there may have been some funding associated with that. But by and large, our categories like surface transportation program, National Highway System, those kinds of things are expected to continue at we hope, or in excess of prior year levels.
All right, thank you.
We still anticipate the grant programs being available.
That's good.
And we will continue to apply for every grant we have the opportunity to apply for. And we've been successful getting some of those grants. But again, the one that, and Mike mentioned this, the one that really concerns me is because it's the bridge formula, not the bridge formula funds, but the bridge general funds, that if people just take it for granted that it's going to be there because it was in the last act, that worries me because it's outside of the act. It was general funds. So I try to remind everyone, every opportunity I have, don't forget about those bridge funds because they were national general funds, not formula funds, not trust funds.
Okay. Thank you. And I did want to add that the program, we were about 165% over programmed on our road plan. And then we put in $450 million of general fund dollars. So it's not as over programmed as one may think. It is over programmed. And so, but when we received the budget, it was about 300% over programmed. And Chairman Upchurch worked on that to get that down to that 165 mark. So traditionally, we've always over programmed. And as Senator Stivers, President Stivers always tells us we need to allow for snail darters and some of those things that we run into at the delays of projects. So with that said, seeing no further questions, thank you all for being here. We certainly appreciate it. And let's shoot for 1.75 billion out the door next year.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Next up, we have Commissioner Bobby Joe Lewis, Rural Municipal Aid. Bobby Joe, I don't know if everyone here has talked to you on a regular basis, but they certainly need your phone number on speed dial. And right up front, we'll tell you thank you for your accessibility and your work. I know you've been a popular lady with us lately with the plan that the 20 million we could. I think the first year we didn't quite get enough requests to spend all 20 million, and last year I think we were way north of $100 million in requests for that 20 million. So you were a very popular lady. So, Madam Commissioner, the floor is yours. Please proceed.
Thank you very much.
And introduce
Chairman.
yourself for the record.
Yes, sir. I'm Bobby Joe Lewis. I'm the commissioner with Rural and Municipal Aid at the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. It's my pleasure to be here, and I always start off by thanking you, each and every one, for everything you do for your constituents. I know what it's like to be a public servant, which you are, and it's been I guess in the longevity of my professional career. So I understand and appreciate it. I also want to tell you that today I did bring a couple of my staff members to assist. I have about a 20,000-foot view of what we're going to talk about, and I brought Craig Cottle. If you'll raise your hand over here, Craig. Craig Cottle's our Transportation Engineering Branch Manager in the Office of Rural Secondary Roads. So I brought him along, and Christy Ross, who's the Executive Advisor in the Commissioner's Office and who helps keep me straight. So let's get started. Oh,
they're welcome to come sit with you at the table if they like.
Would you all like to?
I know they don't want to, but
I was going to say, at your request, sir, they probably will.
Well, I'll have them to introduce themselves for the record, and like I said, we will not embarrass you, I promise.
Go ahead.
I'm Christy Ross.
You turn your
It's
microphone on.
I'm Christy Ross. I'm the Executive Advisor with the Department of Rural and Municipal Aid.
It might have been on, you turned it off, but it glowing bright green. Okay.
Now it's bright green, sir. Christy Ross. I'm with the Department of Rural and Municipal Aid, and my title is Executive Advisor.
My name's Craig Cottle. I'm the Engineering Branch Manager in Rural Roads.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. So let's get started. I tell everybody whenever I talk about anything, let's talk about my favorite subject, and that's roads, okay? And I know it's probably one of the ones that you all talk about on a daily basis. So I was called over here today to talk specifically about the rural secondary program, and in response to some questions from the legislative body. So let's move along. Now, first of all, the rural secondary program is funded by 22.2% of the motor fuels tax revenue. And this allocation of 22.2% is determined by the FIS formula. Okay, so we want to start with that and then move to our revenue share breakdown. Now, I put this in here as an example of the formula of FIS. And then the rural secondary allotment, which is to the left-hand side of the screen. And we'll leave that there for just a second and move over to the county road aid allotment, which is to the right-hand side of the screen. And then the municipal road aid allotment, which is across the bottom in gray. So the county road aid allotment, as you all know, it's all the same statute as the rural secondary. It's KRS 177-320, 18.3% of the revenue share breakdown goes to county road aid. And it's the formula of the FIS, and municipal road aid is 177.36. That's 7.7% of the motor fuels tax that goes to municipalities in Kentucky. All right, so the formula of the FIS, how does that actually work? You've got 4 topics, okay, in the pie chart there. Equal share, rural road mileage, rural population, and rural land area. And, you know, some people say, well, you only have 4. How come it's called the formula of the FIS? Well, I don't know. That's what the statute calls it, okay? So, because rural land area is 2 FIS, okay? So that's where you get the 5 FIS. But, so you have the formula of the FIS. So we're here today to focus on the left-hand side of the screen, which is the rural secondary allotment of 22.2% that's run through the formula of the FIS. And it's also important to note that it is used for construction, reconstruction, and maintenance of rural secondary roads, okay? So it's not only paving that money is used for. Then there's up to 6% that's allocated for RS emergencies. If there's not any questions on that screen, I'm going to go on to the next one. And you'll see the rural secondary funding, again, is 22.2%. For this fiscal year, that starts out at $190.8 million and some change. So, and if you look at the left-hand side of the screen, the RS Emergency Fund, that's up to 6%, and that is by statute. The RS Emergency Fund is up to 6%. Then the funding allotment that comes at the 190, there's 10% set aside, okay? So 10% off the top of the 190, okay? So then down to the emergency fund, and you've got up to 6% of the 90%, okay? That 3% goes to state emergencies, and you all have heard of the 80-20 bridge program, right? So the 80-20 bridge program actually comes out of the rural secondary allotment, and that is 3% of the 6%, or of the 90%, I'm sorry. 3% of the 90% that is distributed, okay? Now, if you'll focus your attention to the right, the initial distribution, you've got maintenance and traffic, the county judge stipend, rural secondary lettings, and flex funds. Each of those categories also are distributed out of the 90% of the 190, okay? So now how do we determine that? How do we know what goes to maintenance and traffic and what goes to rural secondary? For the easy ones, we'll get to that question in just a second, but for the easy ones, the county judge stipend is by statute, and as you all know, that stipend is being phased out. So that is continually going down as new judges, take over the post and whatnot. So that's slowly phasing out. And then flex funds on the far end, that is what is distributed to the county based on their level of service ranking as done by the maintenance division. They're given a percentage. I did a presentation on flex funding that showed how they come up with the percentages, but that is flex funds. So those two things are different. So maintenance and traffic and rural secondary, how do we determine what comes out or how much is allocated to those categories of maintenance and traffic and rural secondary? It's based on the recommendations of the chief district engineers. They look at the needs within their district for each county, and that's what's plugged into those fields. First it goes through the FIS formula, okay? Don't forget that. It goes through the FIS formula, and it allocates it per county. Then the chief district engineers tell us basically what they need for maintenance and traffic in that area and what they need for rural secondary lettings in that area, okay? Now, I mentioned that there's a 10% set aside. Well, what happens to that 10% set aside? I'm sure somebody's going to ask that. Okay, so the 10% set aside, any left over at the end of the fiscal year goes back in to the rural secondary lettings and maintenance and traffic. Okay, we have a road, we have a lot of roads, but one in particular that may illustrate this example or this concept for you. is a rural secondary road that needed a lot of work, and it was way beyond the budgetary capacity or the rural secondary capacity of that particular district. And so we were able to help them out with that 10% because the road was getting in a hazardous space, okay? So we did that. Plus, also, it helps with the ebb and flow of funds, because you know how that will happen with gas tax revenues, as you were just told a few minutes ago in the financial report. This 10% helps us cover that. So whatever's there at the end of the year, it goes right back into rural secondary and maintenance and traffic. Okay. Anything you need to add on that, Craig?
Nope, that was great.
Okay, thank you. All right. Now, the information that we were asked for was, number one, the anticipated additional funding needed to pave our rural secondary roads that have not been paved for 15 years or more. And you'll see we requested this information from the chief district engineers in each of the 12 districts. And I'm going to go ahead and address the elephant in the room, because I know Representative Smith's going to ask me if I don't go ahead and talk about it. So let's talk about that for a minute. I got to looking at this too, and I'm like, so why is there such disparity in District 11? So I called Chief District Engineer Chris Jones, and we had a very illuminating conversation about this, because I think he was looking at it from a different perspective. He has 161, right about 161 roads that would be paved with additional funds. And at $125,000 per mile, that would be $20,095. Now, what he had originally sent us was $4.4 million. And I think what he was doing was extrapolating out what he thought it would take him over 15 years to get his roads back in a shape, or, caught back up to a 15-year pavement cycle. Okay, so the difference that I would add on to this, because you all already had this when I found out this information. So $20,095,000 is actually what should be on there, unless we went back and changed all the other 11 to the same formula he used. So $326,320,000 is what we had on there, plus the difference of $15.6 million. So $342 million would be the bottom line. Does that make sense to you, Representative Smith? Okay. All right. Now, before I talk about this slide, the second slide, or the second question was...
Commissioner, let me,
Yes,
Senator Berg has a question.
Yes, sir. Yes, Senator Berg.
Make sure your microphone's on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could we go back to one slide before? When we're talking about the initial distribution,
yes,
maintenance, county judge. My question is these distributions purely made on an as-needed basis? Can they be politically changed? Can somebody come in and reprioritize, is what I want to know.
No. I mean, unless you know something I don't. No. We do that at the beginning of each year. I'm sure you all have heard that the chief or the districts will go out and meet with the fiscal courts, and they talk to them about their rural secondary roads and so forth. That's what we always do. And then they provide this information to Mr. Cottle, and he runs it in his spreadsheet, okay, which I've got a sample of right here. That tells us what all's in maintenance and traffic and what budget they have to spend for the year.
One thing I might add that may clear up some confusion is
Turn on your microphone there, please.
The 4 boxes you're looking at there, those 4 boxes are broken down for every county in the state. So that's not just overall the counties. So you'll see that for 120 counties broken down into those 4 things that Bobby Joe's talking about there. Yes, and it's all the FIS formula. No political nonsense can be taken.
Thank you.
Commissioner, please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. All right, so we've gotten to this screen, but I also wanted to say that the second part of the request that we received was to provide the roads that would be paved if the money we were just talking about, if we were able to come up with that money, what roads would be paved. And we have a list of all those roads that we have provided. It was way too big for me to include in a PowerPoint presentation, but if you would like, I can send that over for mass distribution, however you all please. Okay.
We have that. We will, at the appropriate time, send that out.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, now this slide, this was the third question. The current number of roads paved each year with the current rural secondary budget. And you'll see down there that it's somewhere between 5% and 6%, generally. They're pretty consistent, except District 3 is a little bit low. In trying to answer or talk about how these might be different from one district to the other, remember I pointed out early on that these funds can be used for different things. So the roads that are paved, if you notice my little asterisks at the bottom, these answers are in percentages because the projects may consist of partial road repairs on one road or resurfacing, partial resurfacing. So it's almost impossible to say a complete number of roads. Make sense? They can also be used for road slides. They can also be used for guardrail. So there's a number of different things that these funds can be used for. So it's difficult for us to quantify the exact number of roads that are paved. Okay? And then this slide I put in here because we felt it was important that you look at this information that we're providing in the context in which it's provided. So number one, rural secondary funding may be used for resurfacing and maintenance activities, all which can have an appreciable impact on the information provided. Okay, so if you're using more of your monies in the district, if the chief district engineer sees in one county that he needs more, maintenance work than resurfacing work, that will impact that percentage, okay? And then the second thing, a 15-year pavement cycle may not be appropriate in every case. Some roads require less than 15 years, and other roads can last, longer than 15 years. So that's another consideration in how we look at rural secondary funding. The one other thing that, when I first became commissioner, and many of you might know this, but I'm just going to tell you anyway, because when I became commissioner, I had to find this out for myself. I'm like, what is a rural secondary road and what makes it so different than a state secondary road? Because you've got the state primary system. Like I said, many of you may know this, but you've got the state primary system, which includes your interstates, major highways, and then you've got your state secondary road system, okay? And then you've got your rural secondary road system. So you all have heard the term farm-to-market roads, right? That's what we're dealing with when we're talking about rural secondary roads, and that's why they're different. It's rural secondary, and it's in the Department for Rural and Municipal Aid, and has nothing to do with the highway plan that you just heard about. And then you've got state supplemental roads, which are low-volume roads. So I thought I would just throw that in there. So that's the extent of my presentation. If I'm happy to address any questions.
Commissioner, I think you gave me a total earlier when we were talking about this, but out of the $190 million, and that's a year or the biennium?
That is the year.
Okay. So how much of that actually comes down to the districts for paving?
To the districts for paving of...
I think you gave me a figure about $70 million.
Oh, bottom line, yes. Let's see. The district rural secondary total is $70 million. Hang on, I need my readers. $549,565. And you know, I didn't talk about this, but let's look at this for just a second. I took the liberty of figuring this out. So there is a total of 12,615.40 total rural secondary miles of road in the state of Kentucky. And if you look at that at $125,000 per mile, that is $1.576 billion, okay, to pave all those. If you divide that by 15 for a 15-year cycle, then you've got $105 million per year for 15 years. And if you take off what's presently the current RS funding of $70,549,565, you end up with a negative $34,578,765. Very interesting.
So we need about 35 million additional dollars a year to not catch up, but to stay where we need to be.
Yes, that would not be catch up. That would be.
Did you ever, I keep talking about our 2011, that our revenue was the same then as is now. Have you ever looked back to see what we spent in 2000, or did you keep it by year, how much we actually spent on rural secondary roads?
I don't know. Craig, would you know that?
It's going to be close to what is this year, probably about, I would say, 60 million. I can get that information for you. I have it back at the office.
I'm just trying to prove a point that, our revenues are the same as they were, 15, 16, yes. 17 years ago. And I'm sure Blacktop's the same price, right?
Well, and what hurts, like we talked on the phone a couple weeks ago, is in these proposals now, it's not only Blacktop. You've got, if they got to address base failures, striping, guardrail, all this other stuff goes in these proposals.
Drains.
Yeah, cross drains, all this other stuff goes in these proposals, just taking away, eating away at what we would spend on asphalt.
Okay. Now, Chairman Upchurch.
Bobby Joe, on the going back to that first slide on the formula FIS, the county judge executive stipend. I think that's $3,600 a year.
It was, yes.
Okay.
And it's still, I don't think it changed that. It's just phasing it out.
Okay. Is that considered taxable income, or is that expense to the judge?
I don't know the answer.
Taxable income.
Craig says it's taxable income.
Okay. Thank you.
Representative Hale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Commissioner. I want to say, first off, I appreciate you've helped me out with a lot of things in my rural areas over the years. But I do have a question, and you probably, I'm sure you probably know this. In my legislative district, I have 3 counties, 3 county judges, 3 districts, which is a logistical nightmare.
I understand.
I mean, it really is. And there's probably other people that have that. Maybe there's other folks that have that. I'm not really sure. But my question is, I've been approached by 1 or 2 of the county judges about the possibility of changing highway districts. And maybe I should know this answer, but I don't. How would you go about that? Or is there a formula that can be done?
To change the highway district?
From that they would possibly look into maybe wanting to be in a different district. And again, maybe this is something everybody in here knows, but I don't know the answer to that.
No, sir. I'm sorry. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure Deputy Secretary Hancock does.
Mr. Chairman, I hope that wasn't a dumb question. But
There's no such thing.
No,
Representative
absolutely
Hale.
not.
That's and this, a lot of this stuff is clear as mud, so we need to try to better understand
and it's
it.
not that I'm attempting to get them to switch districts, but that's been brought to my attention.
Well, I was thinking the 3 you've got just wonderful chief district.
Oh, I do. I do. But there are, some of them are on the very outskirts of that district.
Representative Hale, there's not a prescribed process. The allocation of districts and counties within districts is something that has been as is for decades. I don't know exactly when, probably should know, but it's probably been 1950s, 60s when the districts were set up with 12 districts and the counties were assigned. We've had this question pop up from time to time. We've had counties who, as you described, may be on the outskirts of the district and don't feel like they're being given equal time, fair time, whatever. We've had an occasional request that something be changed. Typically, we've been able to work with our chief district engineer and just say, hey, pay a little more attention to these folks, and it's worked out fine. So hopefully it's that kind of issue and not one where there's a personality conflict that's created an issue.
I don't think it's a personality conflict. And one of my counties is Menifee County. I'm just going to give you the example. It's in District 10.
Yes.
Of course, Jackson is the district office. It seems to get left out a lot. District 7, which Montgomery County is in, seems to be left out a lot because it's on that far eastern side of that district with Fayette County and Scott County and all these others. But that was just my question. Is there a process that could happen? And again, I hope it wasn't a dumb question. But.
No, it's certainly not that. And as far as a process, we don't really have a process, but I would encourage discussion. Absolutely. Let's talk about it. The state highway engineer, James Ballinger, would be a great person to talk to about that, and just make sure that we're paying proper attention to those counties that may not be in everyone's mind at every moment. They're all important. All 120 counties are important to us.
And I certainly go on the record as all three of those district engineers I work with do a great job. They really do. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. I'll finish it up with a dumb question. We have the U.S. highways. We know how to identify those. Then we have our state highways. We have the ones with 2 numbers, 3 numbers, 4 numbers. Is there any particular one of those that would be considered rural secondary, or are they just a mixed bag?
I think what you're going to need to do, and the way I do it, is I go to the KYTC local road maps and I pull them up and I type in that road, the road name, and then if you go to the little identifier box, it'll tell you what it is. I have to look all the time because it is very difficult to distinguish between rural secondary, state supplemental, and sometimes even state secondary. So.
Well, I always tell people, and that doesn't have anything to do with the formula FIS, but the formula FIS is like the SEEK formula. It's clear as mud a lot of times. Well, thank you all for being here today, and thank you for your work, Commissioner. Appreciate it, and appreciate your team there, Craig and Christy. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. And if I could make one comment.
You may.
Representative Hevron, I eat jelly beans all day, too.
Can she touch them?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
FYI, I've got some in my grandkids that remind me they're the only ones that ever look for them, but they expired in 2015. I still have them in my office if you'd like to have them.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, our Kentucky Commercial Airport update. Gentlemen, please come forward. And we have Lexington Bluegrass Airport, Louisville Regional Airport Authority, and CVG, Northern Kentucky International Airport. When you all get settled, you can make sure your green light's on. You can identify yourself for the record, and I'm sure you all have decided who goes first and who goes last. So once you get everything set up there, well,
that's good.
There you
go. Okay, gentlemen, the floor is yours. Again, identify yourself for the record, and please proceed.
Thank you. My name's Eric Frankel. I'm the airport director, airport CEO in Lexington Bluegrass Airport. Thank you so much for having us today. I'll keep my comments brief, but this is a great opportunity to talk to you a little bit about what the commercial service airports are doing these days. And I think you're going to find that all three of us are extremely busy, and I think all three of us have a huge benefit to the Commonwealth. So thanks for the opportunity to be here. I want to start and talk a little bit about where we've been this recent past, particularly since COVID, and that's going to lead up to a number of development projects that we have going on that, of course, affect Lexington, but really all of central Kentucky. So over the past several years, we've been continuing on this journey to grow the airport and then to develop the airport. In 2022, following the pandemic recovery, we undertook a master planning process that forecasted a fairly robust amount of growth at Bluegrass Airport. Just 2 years later, we had already surpassed our activity for pre-COVID. And what you'll see on this graph to the left side, the darker colors, and particularly the gold represents the population growth over in the central Kentucky region. And then that grew about 1% on average annually. But the airport itself, in terms of the number of passengers, grew about 2% during that same time. And you can see there's pretty consistent. So as we forecast our future activity, it's pretty easy. If we look at the last 45 years, we've had a pretty regular 2.5% growth. And if we carry that forward, you can see that we'll continue to grow in that same manner. But this isn't the only thing that our airport is known for. So in central Kentucky, of course, we operate a commercial service airport. We have a lot of passenger activity. We're excited about that. But we also have a lot of private aviation activity and corporate aviation activity that serves not only Lexington, but about a 55-county region, pretty much in central Kentucky, but particularly to the east and to the south. And for example, obviously we all saw the announcement on Corning Glass in Mercer County. They have a corporate jet that flies in twice a week from New York into Bluegrass Airport to serve that operation in Mercer County. So what we're showing really on this map is that we have plans for the entire airport. We always, generally speaking, focus on commercial service, and that'll be a big focus for all three of us. But there's a lot of other aviation activity that occurs at these large airports that serve a lot of different interest groups, particularly private aviation, flight instruction, as well as corporate aviation that serves the entire region. We started a process in 2022 to do a master planning process to evaluate the entire airport, as I just indicated. But while that was going on, we realized we grew so fast that we couldn't really keep up with the demand in our parking and our terminal facilities. So we immediately started this process that you see below or on the slide right now to expand our surface parking lot. This is an expensive project, added a lot of spaces. Right now we were parking in overflow in the grass, not the kind of impression we want to give to central Kentuckians. But we were excited to do this project and really want to take this opportunity to thank the legislature and particularly Senator Amanda Mays Bledsoe for helping us get funding for a portion of this. This is about a $20 million project. The $5 million that the legislative process provided last year goes a long way to help us do this project that we otherwise may not have been able to do. Of course, for us to continue the expansion of the airport, we need to relocate our air traffic control tower. Not particularly a glamorous project, but this is a federal facility. This is the only building on the airport, the 1,100 acres, that we don't own and control. But as you can see in its current location, we call that Boardwalk and Park Place. They're right in the middle of our development. We need to relocate them. So we're working with our federal legislative staff to try to get the FAA to move that facility as soon as possible so we can continue our growth. Of course, probably the most significant challenge that we have coming ahead of us is a pretty significant terminal project. And what you'll see there is the current facility and then what we hope to go to. And we think this is going to be a $500 to $700 million investment in our facility over the next decade or so to try to make this happen. And one of the things that's happened in our industry, it's great for Lexington, great for central Kentucky, is aircraft size changed. So While the current terminal, many of you may have flown through, certainly was adequate for the last 20 or 30 years, the aircraft size changed, and that really forced a lot of changes in the terminal. No longer can that current terminal really accommodate, even if we did not achieve the growth that you saw on that earlier slide. We really need to make some changes to be able to continue to accommodate Central Kentuckians. And one of the things that we talk about pretty regularly, we focus on where we can go to as Central Kentuckians, the cities that we serve directly and with one stop. But what's equally important, if not more important, is how people get to the 3 destinations here. So we really need to have facilities that can meet that demand, as well as meet the changes in what's happening with technology, the different types of aircraft and aerial transportation systems that are being developed. So this will be our focus. We just finished our terminal area planning process recently. We are now in the stage of trying to do our consultant selection, and we feel the next step, of course, will be trying to fund this. And of course, this is where the state comes in. As you may know, I mean, most of the 3 of us, we're large enough airports to be able to support ourselves quite a bit, but there are holes, and holes that we think the state has helped with in the past. We would look forward to that conversation again in the future to help us fill those gaps so that we can continue to provide the service. We think there's opportunities for us to bring more money into the state. Every time we have a matching grant, we can match 10%, we can get 90% of the federal government to match that grant. We think that obviously benefits, in my case, Central Kentucky, but it also benefits the Commonwealth overall. So we really appreciate what the legislature did last year, and we look forward to being able to have those conversations again in the future so that we can continue the growth that we've had. And finally,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and finally, obviously our annual economic impact, pretty significant again for Central Kentucky, and I think the 3 of us particularly, very dramatic economic impact for the Commonwealth overall. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, but I was going to say, Eric, thank you for your report, and Representative Dunworth has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's really more of a comment. I just want to say thank you. I'm being from Lexington and seeing the growth of the Bluegrass Airport over the course of my lifetime, it's really pretty amazing to see these types of numbers, and especially as Fayette County, but really all of Kentucky's tourism numbers keep going up. I think this is a really important component. So thank you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Okay, Dan, I assume you're next.
Yes, my name is Dan Mann. I'm Executive Director of the Louisville Regional Airport Authority. We have 2 airports, and SDF is our large commercial airport, and Bowman Field.
Dan, pull that microphone a little closer to you, please.
Bowman Field is I'm sorry, you missed all that riveting information. So similar to Eric's story, there's been amazing growth. Go to the next slide. Just amazing growth since coming out of COVID. I think it has surprised all of us. I believe we all knew commercial service would come back, but it came back much quicker than we thought. At Louisville, we've experienced amazing growth, record-setting passenger growth. We've gone from 22 to 23 nonstops to 38 nonstops. We set records 3 of the last 4 years. Kentucky Derby obviously is a very busy time of the year for us. 149, 150, 151 were all record-setting years. Last year was an amazing number of passengers that flew through, but it really stressed our infrastructure. And so we started looking at what can we do to make sure that we keep up with the demand that just keeps coming year in and year out. Cargo, kind of the unsung hero for us through COVID, and now UPS primarily drives the cargo operations at our airport, but the 3rd busiest cargo airport in North America. And I think a lot of us in Louisville and our region kind of take that for granted, or maybe don't even think about it. But it's a significant player on the world economy. This year, since January, we've been #1 commercial airport in or #1 cargo airport in North America. So we think we'll finish this year as the busiest cargo airport in North America and 3rd or 4th busiest cargo airport in the world. So again, everything we do, we think about how do we make sure that UPS, those cargo operations, are contributing to the economy, and we as the airport are doing our part to make sure they can continue to grow. SDF, 180,000 operations, extremely busy, and it's, again, just record-setting numbers on the commercial side. Bowman Field, that's our GA airport. It is the busiest GA airport in the state. A lot of great things are going on at Bowman Field. We have 5 pilot training centers. Right now we have over 500 people, student pilots, going through the program. I think a lot of things that are critical with Bowman is the activity, the energy it brings, the training for future mechanics and UPS pilots. But one that we don't talk a lot about is the Just for Kids Norton helicopter flights there. Not every day, but a lot of those flights are life-saving flights that are generated out of Bowman Field. Next slide. Economic impact. We talk a lot about the economic impact. This number is new to us. We just updated this in the last 6 months. It grew dramatically since the last time we did this in 2019. I think the thing that really, 2 takeaways, 90,000 jobs are because of activity at the airport, but 551 million in state and local taxes are generated because of our business partners and the activity surrounding Louisville Regional Airport Authority. Airfield improvements in terminal. As we've grown, we've expanded a lot. We knew there was a necessity to continue to improve our infrastructure. The last 4 years, we've invested $338 million in the airfield and in the terminal. Again, it's just to keep up with the capacity growth that we've experienced. Next slide. This is one where, again, I have to say thank you to you folks. We talk about return on investment. When the state invested $5 million last year for us, it went into the checkpoint. Again, we had significant growth. We only had 5 checkpoint lanes. We had more activity in the mornings than throughput allowed with 5. So we went to a 6th lane and a 7th lane. We knew we had to do better than that, and so we started designing this checkpoint. $5 million that the state was willing to invest brought in $17 million in federal funding. $6 million in past facility charges. It's just been an amazing return on investment. And when we start looking to the future, when the state helps, we get to bring in federal dollars. Our airline partners invest more dollars through the contract relationship we have. It's just, we think, probably no better return on investment than investing in Kentucky's airports. SDF Airfield. Again, these are programs that we have moving forward. How are we going to keep up with all the demand from our commercial carriers, but primarily UPS? We have a limited footprint. We have 2 parallel runways and a crosswind. Everything we do and think of, we have to maintain those for a 24-hour operation, 7 days a week. And we have put a program together that the FAA has supported. We think over the next 5 years, we're going to generate about $146 million in federal dollars. 16.3 million of that will be our responsibility. We'll do that through a couple mechanisms: pass-through facility charges, our rates and charges structure with UPS. But there are going to be shortfalls, and if we want to maintain the speed that we need to maintain our level of operation and operation tempo, we will have a few shortfalls. And so we're really saying, hey, if there's ever a chance to do something like House Bill 1 a couple of years ago, we think we've got a great investment, and it's going to support jobs, tax dollars going back to the state. And again, we think it's a viable investment. Next slide. This one is a little bit more challenging. Not a lot of federal dollars when it comes to investing in terminal, but something that we know we have to do for our community. We do not have a FIS, a Federal Inspection Service station. This is so we can have international service, probably less than daily. But when we think about Kentucky Derby, we are fairly certain we would have multiple international flights if we had an FIS. We are designing that right now. That will be a $50 million facility. We think it'll come online before Kentucky Derby in 2028. So we're moving really rapidly on that. Not really any federal dollars for that. So it's going to come out of either bonding or operational cash. But $542 million realigning the road, parking, all the things that Eric talked about. We are similar situation. The road has congestion and backup now. We know we're going to grow 3 to 5% over the next 4 or 5 years. So the roadway realignment. 2 years ago, we ran out of parking, which was very, very uncomfortable. Parking in the streets, parking along the roads. And really what happened with that is, well, gosh, you didn't grow that much. Why are you running out of parking now? And it really is the size of the aircraft. You go from a 50-seat to a 75-seater to a 185-seat. That's more people on that airplane, so their cars are parked longer. So you just have this influx in and out, which really, really put a crimp on our parking. We've since added parking to our shuttle lots. We are right now building a 700 space off-airport parking lot. So parking is, you take it for granted, but when you're flying, our customers are flying, they expect to be able to park their car. And so we're investing in parking. Probably in the next 6 or 7 years, we'll have to build a new parking deck on the north side of the airport. Again, very limited footprint for us. But $542 million really is being driven by customer demand and building the customer amenities that are expected for a first-class facility. That's really all I have. I just want to say, again, thank you for the investment last year. We think we're doing great things for the airport and the community, a lot of jobs, a lot of impact for the region with UPS and cargo operations. And so we're really proud of what we're doing and what we're building, and we just hope we're able to keep up with it, that we right now can react ahead of time for the capacity growth that we've seen.
Dan, thank you. And Senator Berg has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if it's okay, I actually have two. If we go back to the page SDF Airfield, 180 million.
Yes.
And there's under that two numbers. One is expected federal grants of 146.7 million, and then you gave an LRAA responsibility of 16.3 million, except that my handout has 33.3 million in that spot. So I just wanted somebody to be able to explain that discrepancy to me.
So the slide, we changed the slide, so I'm not sure they made it the update. It is
Okay.
$180 million. $33.3 million will be LRA responsibility, and it'll come in the form of our rates and charges with our airlines and cargo. We think we have passenger facility charges, customer facility charges, some charges, but the part that we know will not be funded for sure, like with the federal dollars, is at $33.3 million.
Thank you. So the actual number is 33.3,
Yes.
not the 16 that was shown on the slide, but the
that
correct number is in our handouts.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. And if I may, first of all, I want to thank you for standing for Fields. I'm extraordinarily proud of our airport. I am proud of the service that we offer, not only just to my constituents, but to everybody in the country, which helps build the economy of this state. It is absolutely essential. I think we have an airport we should be very proud of, and located physically in a place that is extraordinarily accessible, which, I travel all over the place, and most of these airports are not. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I am going to bring up a problem that I know you personally do not have control over, but it is an issue, particularly when we're trying to put our best face forward. I've been flying in and out all over the world and the country recently, and I've had two experiences at your airport that I want to share. One is an agent with a low-budget airline refusing me admission to a plane at the gate after he checked me in 2 hours earlier because he felt that the animal I was flying with was not safe. Even though I had flown on that airline with that same animal consecutively 3 months in a row. So, those type of, it was just me. I had not saved 3 years of money to go on vacation, nor was I a big executive flying in or out from anywhere. But when those type of things happen, they really sour the experience for everyone.
Senator Berg,
yes.
we
So
get with
my
Dan?
question is, and then the second incident was with waiting times once plans land on the ground, and actual ability to deplane. I had an experience a couple weeks ago, 35 minutes on the ground with a pilot clearly upset, honestly telling everybody on the plane that the people he was trying to communicate with would not answer him. He told us all that. Those are the type of things I'm just asking you. if there's anything you can do to improve those experiences for our travelers, that is what people take home with them. That is what makes them think we have a good, accessible, easy in, easy out. So thank you for everything. But I just want to bring these type of situations up.
The inconsistency with the carrier for the airline.
You don't have to address any of these personally.
That's something that we are looking into. But one of the things I'm really, really proud of in my team, about 2 years ago, we started hearing anecdotally that I have to wait a long time for my bags. We park on a ramp and there's not a crew. I will say the pilot that talked about trying to get a hold of somebody, those are his coworkers. That is his airline and his employees. Having said all that, we know that people have an experience like that. They look to the airport. What are you doing about it? And so I'll tell you a couple things we've done, and I think it's really cutting edge. We started saying, you know what, we're not really tracking this as an entity. We're not tracking it. So we build in technology now, so we know when an airplane lands. We know when it gets to the ramp. We know when the jet bridge hooks up. And we know now, because we track it. We track it every day, and I get a report. And we now know when the first bag arrives to the baggage claim. So in the absence of that data, we heard a lot about it, but we couldn't track it. And so now we track it every day. We are now about 97% of all bags arrive within 20 minutes. But more importantly, it's like tracking is one thing, but what are you doing to fix the problem? We hired I call them fixers and fillers. It's really a go team. So these are my ops coordinators that we schedule around when we know we have problems with our flights. So once we started tracking, we said, you know what? We have more problems after 9:30 at night. We have a specific airline which struggles a little bit with their staffing more than some of the other airlines. So we started staffing these fixers and fillers. And they now will go out to the jet bridge. They operate the jet bridges. These are we do ground handle Sun Country Airline. So all these guys are trained to do that. So they can operate the jet bridge. They will go down and actually throw bags. Not their responsibility. Some of the airlines say, don't touch our bags. My fixers and fillers, my ops coordinators are very proud of the fact that they can do it. They respond. They're solving customer service needs. We started going out in our industry talking about how did we staff this? What do the fixers and fillers look like? What technology did you use to track all these features? And then reporting back on what airlines are working, what ones aren't. How can we fix it? And so we are responding. We know we need to do better. We know our airline partners need to do better, but we took it seriously. A badge of honor for us to hire the fixers and fillers and get this technology where we can track and respond. Right now we have an automated system. Every time we get an alarm when the bags are over 15 minutes, it automatically announces saying, we know you're waiting. Because that's the worst. If you're down there waiting for a bag and nobody's around, the bag belt's not moving, it's like, do they even know we're here? And so we start with the announcement, and then my team shows up 20 minutes in. They're either out unloading the airplane or assisting or behind the bag or actually talking to the customers, and it's gone a long way. And again, I think with 97% within 20 minutes, we're moving the meter. I think we'd all like that to be better. And frankly, some airlines are much better than others, but we're at the 97%. And I will say Sun Country, which we ground handle, 100% of our bags get it within 20 minutes. So.
Dan, thank you on that. I will say, I will make a personal note. I flew a couple of weeks ago, and my bag was coming out of the chute as I walked up to get it. So it's good job. Thank you. Thanks. Larry, we'll move on to you if you're ready to go. And
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I can't recall if you stated your name yet for the record, but if you have, please proceed.
Larry Crowder, Chief Executive Officer, CVG International Airport. Delighted to be asked to speak with you this afternoon. Thanks, Eric, for the assist on the slides. We'll start off with our economic impact, and as you can see, it's considerable, $10.5 billion through the end of 2024, a little over 9 million passengers, 55 nonstop destinations, 7th largest cargo airport in North America, so we're closely following our friends in Louisville. Over 16,000 badged employees on campus, each one of those representing a job. This is a little bit of our route map just to show you everywhere that we're flying currently, and I think the key takeaway here is the diversity of the air service that we have. We have a number of different air carriers that provide not only daily service but also seasonal service. Just like Lexington and Louisville, we have a number of projects going on, a number of areas around the airport that have been developed. And this slide is just to show you that we are very actively developing in all quadrants of CVG. One of the most visible projects we have going on right now is the DHL hub expansion. We are their second largest global super hub. And the project that you see under construction right now is a wide-body aircraft hangar capable of handling 2 777s at the same time, side by side, within the hangar footprint. That's about a $292 million investment that DHL is making, a considerable generator of both temporary construction jobs, spending in the region, and ultimately permanent full-time jobs. Of course, Amazon is across the street in the other side of the airport, and considerable investment, over $1.5 billion by Amazon in their primary North American cargo hub. FEAM Aero, and this is just a great example of what it means when you have 2 large anchor tenants like Amazon and DHL. FEAM Aero is a maintenance company that really exists to support both Amazon and DHL. They have constructed 2 maintenance hangar facilities for a total of $64 million of investment. Epic Academy, we have to make sure that we're filling the pipeline created by all of these job opportunities. And we brought Epic Academy in recently. They made a $7 million investment. And as you can see, they are in the airframe and power plant certification and training business, and have been very successful in enrolling new classes up through the recent start of class just here for the fall semester. Few projects on the horizon. We're very focused on our CVG Global Logistics Park. And again, just as Eric and Dan said thank you, we want to say thank you as well to the legislature for the kind of support that has been given to us to allow us to build the infrastructure necessary to prepare the logistics park for growth. Next slide, please, Eric. This project is currently underway. We expect the F&F cargo facility at the Global Logistics Park to open within about the next 45 days. And again, generating temporary construction jobs and supporting full-time jobs. This building will be primarily dedicated to freight forwarding. And I like to say sanitary sewer improvement projects are not necessarily really exciting projects for the legislature, but incredibly important, because the money that you're providing to us is going to these types of enabling projects and replacing these types of systems that are original to the airport in some instances. So very important work that's being done, and very costly work. And so the money that the legislature provides us really is critical to allowing us to move forward on the building side, the facility side, and ultimately attracting more aeronautical business. Next slide, please. We're working on a number of projects, including Hangar Row. We are currently in the planning phases for this project that will be located in the southwest quadrant of the airport. Again, enabling future growth as our DHL and Amazon and additional freight forwarding partners grow. We expect that there will be a need and opportunity for more maintenance, repair, and overhaul facilities, as well as additional hangaring facilities for cargo aircraft. One of the things I wanted to talk with the committee about today is just to leave you with some of the ideas that we've been sharing with the Advanced Air Mobility Task Force and Aviation Economic Development Task Force, where we see opportunities for financial and political support around passenger air service development, power infrastructure, to support advanced air mobility, alternative aviation fuels, and workforce development. So I'll go through those as we go forward. Next slide, please, Eric. And then we'll just go to the next slide. This shows you approximately the distribution of our passenger volume. And you can see between the 3 airports represented here today, we are delivering the majority of the passenger activity for the Commonwealth. And all of us, all 3 of us, can always look to develop additional air service. I think what we would like to have in terms of support from the legislature would be dedicated funding to support our air service development efforts. For international service that Dan referred to, and Louisville's in the middle of pursuing their FIS project, it can cost literally millions of dollars to attract international air service opportunities. And while they pay a big dividend, it is very expensive to incent those air service development opportunities. So all 3 of the commercial service airports and the other commercial air service airports in the state would value this type of assistance from the legislature. Next slide, please. So where we're saying is a state-level development fund, which could ensure that we can compete with neighboring states that already offer similar incentives. Tennessee is an example. And the possibility of introducing legislation to create such a program, which would be competitive, application-based, with clear criteria and accountability measures reporting back to this legislature, but being able to do that on a multi-year appropriation so that we can plan and our communities can plan would be very, very helpful. And another example of programs would be Jobs Ohio. They manage an air service restoration program, and Iowa DOT also has an air service program that's part of their broader state aviation fund. Talk a little bit about advanced air mobility and power infrastructure. Right now, we have an agreement with Miami University of Ohio to operate their airport, and that's really driven by the partnership that we have with Miami and the state of Ohio on advanced air mobility. We are in the partnership business. We like to partner with not only our airports in the Commonwealth, but also other general aviation airports, as you see here, in order to have that ecosystem that brings the advanced air mobility platforms, partnerships with leading educational institutions, as well as startups and R&D space around electric aviation, which we'll talk about further. This is just an example of what we're doing here at OXD Airport, just laying out future advanced air mobility facilities, a complex aircraft electric charging, and also the vertiport aspects. And these can be, these types of designs can be deployed to other general aviation airports throughout the Commonwealth here. So what we suggest as an idea is for Kentucky to partner with Ohio for advanced air mobility. There's currently an aviation system plan underway by the Transportation Cabinet. It's an opportunity to establish a corridor partnership, which I'll outline here in just a moment. Ohio was the first state to publish a comprehensive advanced air mobility framework, and they've developed some really great relationships in the ecosystem that I think we can continue to attach to. Prominently, the National Advanced Air Mobility Center of Excellence, which is in Springfield, Ohio. And then ODOT recently created an advanced air mobility division to integrate their work with the Advanced Mobility Center of Excellence with their transportation technology and ground transportation. This is just a headline I wanted to share with you, just to say that these types of partnerships are becoming more and more common between states. In this particular case, North Carolina and Georgia DOT are partnering around advanced air mobility and electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. And I think we really have an opportunity to do the same. And you'll see this in the next few slides when we talk about our corridor. This is just to give you an idea of some of the corridors inside the Commonwealth, as well as the mission distance ranges of some of the advanced air mobility platforms that are being developed currently. And you can see that we have great reach from the Commonwealth throughout Mid-America region. And also an interesting dynamic that as we at CVG start analyzing overlays, I wanted to share with you the idea and the relationship between electric infrastructure as well as data centers. And just in terms of what's going on inside the Commonwealth, but what's also going on regionally, and where we see potentially some really interesting opportunities, which is, next slide, to look at corridors and planning our corridors for power infrastructure and aligning those with commercial and general aviation airports that are actually in these corridors. We think that that will bring really significant opportunities for advanced air mobility. And we talk a lot about resource deserts that we're always trying to reach in our Commonwealth. And we believe that this type of planning, both air and surface, electrical infrastructure, might allow for solving quite a bit of our resource desert issues that we may have, and opening up communities that historically have not had as much access through advanced air mobility. And so we want to think more globally about where we're extending the infrastructure and also co-locating that with general aviation airports, which can also be used for a number of things, including relieving some of the lack of truck parking that we have currently in the Commonwealth. Next slide, please. So if you look at that corridor that we talked about, if you look throughout Ohio and Kentucky, we have a considerable corridor with the I-71, I-75 infrastructure and the number of companies that are in the region that could benefit from advanced air mobility and further economic growth around passenger and cargo infrastructure. Next slide, please. Again, it's a global corridor. It's not just a domestic U.S. corridor, and we're talking about bringing in that additional international air service, which will bring in more foreign direct investment, which is good for all of us in this corridor. Next slide. And this is just a mapping to give you an idea of some of the assets that are inside this corridor to demonstrate to you that it is very real in terms of the types of industries that are developing in and around advanced air mobility, transportation, and logistics, as well as academic research institutions. Next slide. So opportunities to think about, again, formalizing partnerships with other states regarding advanced air mobility, a more comprehensive approach on where power infrastructure should be located to best serve the state. We can do much with data, cyber, and advanced air mobility overlaid together and co-locating utilities so that we have greater resiliency, and again, also looking at potential to open up areas of the Commonwealth that might be resource poor to receiving additional resources. And we think maybe leveraging the House Bill 775, looking at exemptions and incentives around that might be a path forward for the legislature to consider. Alternative aviation fuels is another opportunity that we want to bring up with the committee. And really, I think what it boils down to is that if we want to have international air service and continue to have the opportunity to grow foreign direct investment in the Commonwealth, we have really got to solve the ability for each of our airports to deliver alternative aviation fuels for international air carriers. Next slide, please. In addition to solving for that, in order for us to continue to do business with international air carriers, it's also going to be, we believe, a potentially attractive investment in the Commonwealth. If you look at this renewable fuel project map of the globe, you can see there's a considerable gap in terms of mid-America. And we believe with the feedstock that we have and the demand for for alternative aviation fuel, we think there's a real opportunity for the Commonwealth here. So again, looking at funding public-private partnerships in which airports can play a role, and establishing incentive programs for everyone that's part of the development around alternative aviation fuels would be a potential recommendation for the committee. Finally, we'll end with workforce. Obviously, we're very much united in developing our workforce and keeping our best, in state with really good paying jobs. And this is just an example of aerospace and aviation industry jobs across some of the jurisdictions in northern Kentucky. Next slide. Top 10 occupations. You can see the inside the aerospace and aviation environment are really good paying jobs. And the same across transportation and logistics as well. Next slide. Again, generating really good paying jobs. So something for the committee to think about that we mentioned to the task force was looking at the potential to participate in FAA collegiate training initiatives. These are for projects that would lead and curriculums that would lead students towards air traffic control positions. That was one of the items that the committee had asked us to provide input in. And there are a number of opportunities, as you can see, just based on the map. There's another gap in that Mid-America region that our Commonwealth is very centrally located and potentially very well suited to step up and lead in this multi-state region to provide education pathways through the FAA CTI initiatives. So we would just leave that point with you to think about, and obviously there are a lot of other committees would have to be involved in that around the education side. But again, if we can establish this type of training in the Commonwealth and then incent students and aid students in getting this type of education, you can see from the previous slides where those job opportunities lead to, and these are family, sustaining, paying jobs. So we'll leave you again, programs for marketing around aviation are considerable given the amount of aviation and aerospace, transportation, logistics business in our Commonwealth. The transportation sector and airports, again, among the largest employers that you've seen here today. We definitely want to collaborate with this legislature, this committee, and others so that we can keep our students here and provide them with pathways to really great aviation and aerospace, transportation, and logistics careers. We do think that the state should give consideration, the legislature should give consideration to funding programs for students, particularly, again, for students who may come from resource-challenged areas of the Commonwealth, to have pathways into these really considerable family wage-sustaining jobs. And the models are there for us to consider, and I thank the committee for the time, and I hope some of the thoughts we've shared spawn additional thoughts from the committee as well. And we're here, obviously, to help in partnership, all three airports, of course, and to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Representative Lehman, you have a question?
Yep. Just a comment and a question.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Crowder. I believe, is this the first time you presented?
It is, sir.
I just want to make sure,
yes,
as the only
sir.
Northern Kentucky representative
yes.
on this interim committee, I want to welcome you to the Commonwealth.
Thank you.
Wish you a lot of success in leading clearly one of, if not the largest driver of our economic future in this state. And just a question. You talk a lot about international air service, foreign direct investment opportunities, and I know this may sound like a minor quibble, but I hear this pet peeve more often than you'd possibly think. As far as I know, CVG is the only international airport. When you land from an international flight, after clearing customs, you go back through security and have to walk through the airport. And the number of people that I know that will actually choose different connecting airports internationally to avoid that process is astounding. And I think we may be losing some opportunities. I don't know if you know of that or would like to speak to that, or at least please take a look at that.
I appreciate the question and outlining the issue. The reality is you couldn't be more correct. The current FIS facility was designed when we were the Delta hub, and the idea was people would come in, they would clear, and they would reconnect elsewhere, as opposed to an origin and destination airport, which we've really reconfigured to now after the dehubbing. And so the reality is that the FIS is in the wrong location. And similar to what Dan is talking about in Louisville, we really need to do at CVG, which is locate a new FIS facility in the proper place. So that activity doesn't have to happen where they have to re-enter into screening.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Williams.
Thank you very much. I guess you could call me the only Northern Kentucky senator on the committee. At least last I checked, I got a little bit of that. So my question is, what sort of international exposure does Kentucky have? I know when I used to travel internationally, I'd ask Europeans to name 5 states. Most of them couldn't name 5 states, but Kentucky was always one of them. And I think we have a great opportunity for international exposure. Are we going to the aviation shows, the Paris show, the various different shows? As a Commonwealth for our economic development, are we supporting you for our international footprint?
Thank you,
This is really
Senator.
all of you.
Truthfully, the answer is that the Commonwealth has not been present at the major air shows. And it is definitely something that we are hoping that the administration will engage with us on for the next major show, which is Farnborough Air Show in the summer of '26. I have brought that up personally with Governor Beshear and his team to say that we must be present to win, as I like to say. And we really need to make sure that there is a Commonwealth of Kentucky pavilion at the next major air show, and then every major air show after that. The concept of us not being there is definitely one that we need to work on together in order to have that presence. So I think it would benefit us all greatly if the Commonwealth would have a pavilion at these major air shows.
It really supports the aerospace industry in Kentucky, which is vital. I know it has not been something we've really tracked a lot from an air service perspective, but once we started going on the design of our FIS, we've been out and about saying, yeah, what airlines can we attract? What are the opportunities? And we are 100% confident that the day that opens, we'll have international service. But as it relates to Farnborough and some of these aviation, it really is about the aerospace industry and what that means and could mean to Kentucky.
Okay.
Thank you. Make a quick comment. Yes,
Please.
I have a friend that is in the industry that makes honeycomb. Airbus is one of his big customers, and he has been going there every year for 20 years and is amazed at all the states he sees there, but never Kentucky. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, thank you all for being here today. I see no further questions. So thank you again for being here, and we appreciate our Kentucky airports. Thank you. Next meeting is September 16th, if anybody wants to make a note. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion. We are adjourned.